Yep. All right. Yep. Can everyone hear us now?
Oh,
Yeah. So I think there was an error with the network. So let's see. Let's.
was it from the beginning?
So all right. Just so can you guys hear us now? Pretty much had a lapse with the network.
Just drop on the comment section if you can hear us.
Let's see.
Okay, they can.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I think we just have to pick up things. Okay. So all right, we just have to pick up things from where we started from. So I think Mofe, we just have to begin again. I think the
From the
net.
beginning or when?
Yeah, from
Just
the beginning. Yep.
okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's CyberTech Nexus free webinar session. And on today's seminar, we'll be discussing cybersecurity and GRC careers, the trends and the career opportunity. I'm your host for today, and my name is John Olatunde. I am a IT governance and compliance analyst at CyberTech Nexus. And basically what I do is to make sure that we're following the rules and regulations set aside by regulatory body. And I am like GDPR. And I also I I also set set framework. I also develop frameworks to make sure that baseline securities are set. On At CyberTech Nexus, we offer IT and cybersecurity solutions. We offer GRC as a service. We offer compliance as a service, and then we offer business. We offer hands-on training to for cybersecurity as well. So on today's panel with me, I've got an expert in this field, someone with multiple years of experience in this field, this in this cybersecurity field. Mr. Abraham, please can you please introduce yourself?
All right, guys. Apologies for the slight issues initially. We're just having some issues. All right. So, an introduction about myself. Yep. My name is Abraham Wanjani, and I've just been in cybersecurity field for a long time. And I'm a cybersecurity officer and a data protection officer. I've just been in the game, and it's quite interesting. That's pretty much brief about myself.
All right. Thank you for introducing yourself. Could you share us a little bit about your journey into cybersecurity and how you got into cybersecurity?
So, cybersecurity journey. I quite don't remember how I started. Right now, this is my story. So, I quite started very young because I had passion for information technology. So, when mobile phones came out and everyone wanted to use the mobile phones, that was Nokia 310 back then. And when computers came, I can remember when we had the first computer in my home. It was an amazing night because we refused to sleep. So I grew passion starting from that. And then, walking through having my nursery and primary school and secondary school, I decided to further for my BSc into computer science, right? And I was privileged to do that in a good school, Babcock University, and pretty much learned a lot and grew my more passion, played around with a lot of exposure. And then, I love networking and it was my core. So I was a network engineer. I love configuring routers. I love going into switch, access point, and all that. So that drew my attention more into information security because why? I was curious about how do we protect what is between two connected devices, and then I decided to further more after having some job roles in information security, and I had an MSc in cybersecurity, and then, officially I decided to begin my career in cybersecurity. Yeah, it started, but in terms of, I just call it my beginning point, and then I got exposure being a CISO for medical companies, and I've played around with so much tasks in cybersecurity, and now where I am, I'm the cybersecurity officer. And from there, I grew my passion into data security also, and then I became data protection officer also. It's quite an interesting journey, but not so easy as I'm saying that. It has its ups and downs because why, challenges I'm going to like. I remember I faced, getting to where I am today is the major issue is all about having the right network, So I remember vividly how I, struggled to be around the Google I/O back then, playing around with a lot of conference, being with Airtels, working with people who were already doing a lot of tasks. So that was a big challenge trying to get across with those things. And also finance is a very big challenge because, we want to learn things that are very expensive. Cybersecurity is very expensive. Why? Because it's not expensive for you to learn alone. It's expensive for you to get into cybersecurity and remain in cybersecurity because nothing is cheap when it comes to security. So that's also one of my challenges. But at the end of the day, it's quite interesting because I was able to struggle with the challenges and kind of break through with all that. But, looking back, it's quite fun and, it's interesting telling my story right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice story on how you entered cybersecurity. And we would love to get to know you more as we delve deeper into this seminar.
All right. Yep.
Yeah. So one quick question is that if you want to learn cybersecurity again, how will you go about it? How will you learn it if you want to start from the beginning again, from scratch?
So I would just emphasize on having the hands-on experience. So I was not opportune to have known that. Probably alongside I got to know that. So beginning with serious hands-on is key. You know, that gives you a lot of much exposure in the sense that when you have the experience and you decide to go into the knowledge base, it makes it easy for you to understand what you're learning. I can remember back then when we kind of studied some things on YouTube, it pretty much looks like jargons. We actually have a very strong coding skills. We're learning Python, learning JavaScript, because we're trying to break and make a lot of things, So, but hands-on experience is key, which I will always want to start with again, rather than knowledge-based.
Okay, that's nice. So hands-on experience is key in cybersecurity because when you know what you're doing, you can never forget. When you practice what you're doing, you can never ever forget. Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
true.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Ebron, for that. Okay. So another question is for those considering a career in cybersecurity, what do you believe they need to get certifications to be successful in cybersecurity and for them to get proper job in cybersecurity?
So that's a good question there, John. And I'm not against certification. Certifications are good, but the trick is it's quite very tricky. You could have all the certifications you wish to have, but that won't land you a job because why? Look, IT, it's cool 100%, but in cybersecurity, it won't because, you know, this needs you to have an experience. No one wants to jeopardize their environment just because you want to learn. So I kind of come across some young lads who want to get into cybersecurity and, they are just concerned about we're going to learn on the job, and I quite like with my experience, I'm like, of course, that won't work. I won't give you a server because you want to learn and just break the server. No. So it requires you having the experience first before certifying that you know what you're doing. So Certifications are good, but it won't land you a job. You could have so many certifications, but it won't give you the job. So go for the hands-on first. But certifications are good. Go for it after. Why? This is the reason. It gives you a strong negotiation power in terms of salary. So probably if you get a job with your experience today and the company has a budget of 60 grand, you know, you could negotiate that and say, look, I'm certified in this. Why don't you give me 70 grand? And then that gives you, but if you definitely do not have the certification, you just have to accept the 60, right? So that's the difference. But getting in, certification will get you in, only the experience. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. So certification is important as well, and but hands-on experience is more important.
Yep.
Yeah. But there are some jobs that before you apply for it, they will tell you to have the CISSP certification. So is it that someone without the CISSP certification can't apply for a job like that?
So I'll tell you to go for it. And then if you get an opportunity for an interview, the question is, if you have the certification, ask the employer, could they refund you back the cost of the certification you have? Because pretty much they just do that to filter people away. So do not be afraid. Go for it. That's not a restriction and to never be in cybersecurity. So that's of course just a way to filter people from applying for jobs.
Thank you. So just go for it. Don't be scared. If you
Yep.
have the capability, if you have the skill, if you have the hands-on experience, just
Just go for it,
yeah,
definitely. Yep.
go for it definitely. So as cybersecurity threats continue to evolve, what are the relevant skills professionals should focus on or professional needs?
So now cybersecurity is a very important topic. It's very nice. Everyone knows it pays a lot, very good salary. Everyone knows that. But this is the thing. I'm sad to break your heart if you're on the call. Cybersecurity do not give rooms for people who do not have the IT foundations. So you need to go back from the scratch. Get to know what IT is all about. Because I kind of break this down for people who have come across with me. So cybersecurity is just a branch of IT. So IT is the pillar that has so many branches. So once you have the IT skills, that's the foundation. You could survive so much in cybersecurity. Don't get me wrong, some persons have been able to break through, into without having IT, but you can have your cake and you can eat your cake and have it. You're gonna be stopped. You can't move from that company you managed to get like the job in and then move to the next company because you don't have the foundation. There's probably like a house that has a strong foundation. You can renovate it or whatever you want, but a house without a strong foundation, you're gonna be scared of what happens if you're gonna make any change. So that's why. So have the right IT foundation. Now, once you have the IT foundation, you need to know networking, especially if you want to go into the technical side of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity has two sides. It has a technical and a non-technical. So it's very friendly. Cybersecurity is one of the IT branches that accommodates people. So regardless where you're coming from, whatever industry you are, because IT cuts across everyone. Go back, start from the scratch, get to know IT, play around with networking. If you want to go for the technical side of cybersecurity, you must be a professional in networking. If you want to go for the non-technical side, you just need to know the basic of networking because the difference between cybersecurity and information security, it's just cybersecurity is concerned about when there is a network, and information security is concerned about when there is no network. So that's it. So they're quite different. So that's why networking is very important. So get to know IT skills, get to know your networking skills, and the most important is communication. You can't be in a security field and you can't communicate. What are you hiding for? So if you do not know how to communicate, cybersecurity is not for you. That's the sad truth. But if you have very good at communication, then that field is because why? You have to explain to people who are not security compliant. For example, you're a cybersecurity engineer in a workplace, and probably you have colleagues who are just clicking on the wrong links and they don't really care. You have to bring them up and like, look, come on, guys, you guys shouldn't be doing this. This is a very big risk. Probably you know what this can cause. It can cost you your job. It can cost business. So you have to be able to communicate. That's three major skills: your IT skills, your networking skills, and your communication skills.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. So So, guys, no shortcut to success. So, to become good at cybersecurity, you need to start from the scratch, trust the process, learn, and you'll be good at it, and you see your magic working out.
That's right.
Thank you for that. So, another question I've got is GRC is often underlooked and underrated compared to cybersecurity. So, what do you think are the most common mistake organization makes or professional makes when it comes to GRC or when it comes to like cybersecurity for them underestimating GRC?
So I'll just begin with the companies. Companies make these mistakes. They're only concerned about GRC when something goes wrong. So, for example, if they've been breached, they are just all about, hey, look, let's fix our GRC. That shouldn't be the case. Do not wait till something goes wrong before you understand that you need a GRC action in place. Now, let's make sense out of what GRC is. So, GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. Now, what is governance? Governance is just you making that policies and procedures on how the business functions, how they operate, how the employees work, and all that. It's just a form of governance, governing something. Now, the risk is all about something happening that could cause an impact. So, everything has a risk. Everyone on this call has a risk of being connected to the internet right now. But the question is for organizations, for yourself, how are you fixing this risk? How are you managing it? So that brings the risk management. So you need to identify your risk and you need to manage your risk. So business needs to not care about their risk, they just operate. So for example, you can have a business who are using probably a Windows 2019 server, and they don't care what are the vulnerabilities in place, so that's a big risk, so businesses need to be aware of what they have. The applications on your mobile phones, you don't know if they are end of life, you just have them on your mobile phone. So those are the risks involved. You need to be able to identify your risk. It could be environmental risk. It could be probably where the business. So, but business need to take risk very important because that could take off the business off the register of businesses. Then the compliance is all about ensuring that they are regulated, they're following the right standards. Now compliance is a big game now because why? It has been all about the people and the process, but now it's hitting so much on the technology. So businesses need to understand what they need to be compliant with. So, for example, you are a financial company or you want to start up a fintech company and you want to take payment, you need to know the standard which you need to be compliant with. Or you're already operating and you do not have PCI DSS and you're taking payments. I don't know how you're doing it, but definitely you need a PCI certification to ensure that, when something goes wrong, you have something to hide and keep yourself off the big fine. So, but compliance is key for business, and they do not need to wait for something to go wrong. And also, individuals, GRS is part of our lives because you need to be compliant yourself. You're working in a company, you need to know what are the regulations which you need to go through. You need to know the standards. Don't breach the standard for the company because you're working for them. Know the risk which you bring to the company, which the business brings to you, and also know what governs the business. If you need to follow this policy, probably you're working from home, do not take your device into a different country and take the data. So those are the things that you don't need to wait for something goes wrong before you act. So act and don't wait till something goes wrong.
Oh, thank you. Organizations shouldn't wait before they land in trouble,
Yeah,
before they are in trouble, before they need GRC. So we
correct.
need to follow the compliance set in place by regulatory bodies so as
Correct.
to not breach compliance and be in trouble.
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. Yep.
So with automation becoming more prevalent in cybersecurity operation, what tasks do you think we need to automate in cybersecurity, and what tasks do you think we don't need to automate, like needs to be done manually in cybersecurity?
So I'll just make this a quick answer because automation are good, but please do not automate what will take you out of business. Automate what will keep you secured. So that's the most important thing. Automate what will not take you out of business because you need to strike the balance between a good security and business efficiency. So let me give you an example now. Let's say you have 1,000 devices, probably servers on the cloud, and probably you found vulnerabilities across them. And probably those vulnerabilities are on top of the operating system. And then you need to patch this operating system of those 1,000 servers. Do not just automate, hey, agent, patch these guys, write a script, and then it patches them at a go. That's very risky. So don't automate because you want to get the job done faster. You want to take the business out of business because all those servers could go down and then, you know, you don't know what can happen next. So that is very, very important. Do not take the business out of business because of automation. So in that kind of scenario, you need to understand what strategies are. Break the patches into circles, into segments, so you will know what you're doing right. So it's just about automate, but don't automate into taking the business out of business.
Okay, so just automate properly here.
Yep, that's right.
So for someone, sorry, bro, are you there?
Yep, I am.
Okay, all right. So for someone looking to begin and start a career in cybersecurity, like what field or what part of cybersecurity do you think they can fit into and dive into immediately? Like not immediately, but they're not really complicated.
Okay, interesting. So I'll tell people this. First of all, you have to start with the IT foundation, and then you need to understand your personality. You might find out that you shouldn't be in cybersecurity. You might find out that it's information security that fits you best. But in a nutshell, get to understand the IT foundation where you could find your passion in networking. You could find your passion in cloud computing because every field of IT needs security. So there is cloud security, there is network security, there is data security, and the list goes on. So start up with IT skills and then understand your personality and find what you love to do best and then push for the security of those aspects. But if you find yourself in cybersecurity and your passion fits well, then you need to understand, do you like to break and make? Do you like to fix? Are you the kind of hands-on guy like me and go into the security or engineering side of things, which is the technical? And then if you're the kind of person that just likes to communicate, that likes to, instruct, so you just sit on the GRC. For example, the GRC is all about you coming in the morning, checking the news, understanding that there is a new requirement for ISO 2001, and then kicking your company and saying, hey guys, look, there's a nice requirement. We need to implement this. So the fun thing about GRC is GRC is all about advisory, so you're advising the business on what to do best. So, but the trick about GRC right now is it has been friendly, like I said, with the people and process, but now it's hitting hard on the technology thanks to AI. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your strong answer, sir.
All right.
Yes. So how can businesses balance the need for strong security with the requirement for a smooth and efficient user experience?
So for businesses to understand what security is, right, it's all about, first of all, what is your security appetite? Do you have a good budget for security? Don't expect everything to go well if you're not spending the right amount of money for security. Spend to equip your staffs, train them because look, as little as an HR department could be, or largely they could be the door for the bad guys coming in because obviously they will be like, come on, I'm not doing anything technical, so why do I? But you need to invest more, putting a lot of campaigns on them understanding what security is, and then understand your technology. If you understand your technology, you need to understand what technology you have in place that could create security risk for you. So, for example, you have staffs working from home and you do not have a VPN on your device to hit your network in the office. Your network is widely open to the public, no port closed, straight up on 443. That's a big risk. Regardless how small you could be, you could lose a lot of money and you could lose your name as a business forever. So, having the right budget, having a very strong security appetite, investing a lot into security courses for your employees, and then putting a lot of security campaigns will help ensure these businesses have a very smooth security operations across all their products and services.
Yeah, training the staff is actually very, very, very important.
Yeah.
With the increasing complexity of global regulations like the GDPR, what are some practical steps organizations can take to ensure compliance while managing risks effectively?
So pretty much this is a global thing right now. So I'll just explain what GDPR means. So GDPR, it's a regulation mostly that started on the Europe side, but they have the EU GDPR and the UK GDPR now. But in other regions, US have the GDPR now. When in Nigeria or Africa, they have their own different data protection acts, So how could business ensure that these things are being put in place? First of all, they need to understand what data protection is all about. So data protection is not just protecting the clients, it's also protecting you. So for example, from the business side, are you collecting the data that are not relevant to you? For example, probably you should have seen this, everyone. You're filling a form, and on the form, it's requesting for so many informations from you. You know, that is not sufficient. Why are they requesting for such information? You'll be asking. For on the business side, why are they taking this information? Because probably they don't need it. So businesses need to understand the kind of information they need from the customers, and also whatever information that they're holding it for the needed period of time. If they do not need it anymore, they need to purge it out. So that is how they need to comply with that. Once they have that in check, then they need to have someone who is going to be responsible for the data protection action. So they could have it outsourced, they could have it internally, but they need an eye to oversee their entire data posture for the organization.
Thank you. So, what how you prefer, like, what would you prefer them to handle it by themselves, or like give it to a third party or MSP?
So I can advise companies on what to do, except I understand what you
Okay,
have,
okay.
your strength or weakness and all that. So probably doing a gap analysis for them, and then understanding, where they stand, and that will help in advising them, the right path to take.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
So, as cybersecurity professional, increasingly use AI and machine learning, what ethical considerations should be taken into place to prevent and to ensure that responsible security practices are taking place?
So the first thing I would say is understanding what your compliance requirements request from you. So if you are under a compliance requirement that do not mandate you to use an AI, do not use an AI. If you are under a compliance requirement that mandates you to use AI in a secure manner, ensure that you are using AI in a secure manner. So that's what it is. So just ensure that you understand, because look, if anything goes wrong, we know what will happen next. You definitely get a fine, or you'll be out of business. So just take note of your compliance requirement and where you fall into.
Okay, thank you. So as we like draw a close end to the webinar session, what advice do you have for professionals and individuals looking to dive into cybersecurity and improve their knowledge and career in cybersecurity?
So that's an interesting question. So for those who want to get more about cybersecurity, I will first of all tell you, get hands-on experience. But the question before then of getting, have the right device. So hands-on experience are not all about coming to have, I call it a chit chat, conversation, knowledge base. Nope. It's for having the right system to play around with the labs. So for example, you want to run a server that runs on 8 gig, probably a virtual server. Of course, if you have an 8 gig system, that's not going to work. Probably you want a 4 gig. So having the right resources, which involves the laptop and creating time, and then you can jump on and hands on. That is the fastest path in breaking into cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you. What about for businesses aiming to improve their security posture? Like, what advices do you have for them as well?
I just say have a large budget for a start. It might not be big, but have a good budget and have very strong security appetite. Don't just overlook at anything, because the front door of your office that you might be thinking might be secured, might be the door the bad guys might come in through. So keep an eye over everything that involves entry points and exit points.
All right. So for individuals, you need to have a strong system to be able to run laboratory and like learn effectively, because you can't keep on learning with a low storage a low storage device, because it's almost like the lab basically consumes resources, so it's kind of complicated learning with a weak and not strong devices. Am I right, Mr. Abraham?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's time for question and answer. So if you've got any question, you could drop in the chat section.
So I'm just having a look to see if we have any question. Feel free, there's nothing like a stupid question. Just grab the opportunity and asking a question to get the right direction and where you want to be. So I think Bankole has his hands up. Bankole, what's your question? So while we're waiting for Bankole's question, we have David. David says tools to learn more on networking. So now it depends on how deep you want to get into networking, but for the foundation level, you have to sit across Cisco, right? So understand how what these devices are, a switch, a router, hub, understanding IP, understanding the OSI and TCP model, and then you're good to go, because majority of the networking cuts across the TCP and IP. Now, once you have done that, you have to get your hands dirty, knowing how to configure IP, understanding subnetting, how it works. Then pretty much you're good to go for a start. So the trick about networking is there is no full direction to get to the point other than starting and getting in. So I think that answers David's question. And we have the next question from Udom. So Udom says, okay, I think he's having network issues. All right. Uh, let's see. All right. So we have next Destiny. So Destiny says, what are the best home lab projects that beginner can work with to get the hands-on experience? So the trick about hands-on experience is you could literally get a lab online, but you actually need a mentor. Well, who you need to run to when something gets you stuck. So you could get free labs online, of course, but that's not going to help you. So get someone who will be your mentor that you can run to when you get in stuck, because you literally will get stuck doing this on your own. So that's the sad truth, right? So I have the next question from Midred. So Midred says, going for a master in cybersecurity, is it necessary or does it have an advantage? So now, the thing about having a master's in cybersecurity, it's not bad, but that won't land you a job. So you could do it just because you want to, have that knowledge side of things, But getting a job, cybersecurity masters won't grant you that job, opportunity, right? Okay, so I think we still have Bankole's hand is still up. So Bankole, you have your hands up still. If you could throw your question on the chat. So just to give you a quick chat about this cybersecurity and careers. So, don't be too fast in getting into cybersecurity. The more you try to get fast, the more you run into problems, So, okay, so we have Seb says, is there a copy of the webinar going to available? Yeah, so I obviously think this copy of webinar is recorded and it should be on the YouTube page. and that I think that's CyberTech Nexus, if I'm correct with the information I
Yes,
have.
correct, correct.
All right, so it's definitely going to be available. So you can keep your questions coming. We have a few minutes more for questions. So, like I was saying, if you rush into cybersecurity, you're going to have to rush out. And the same thing that happens to business. If you start a business without a cybersecurity, you're going to have to close your business down soon. So, all right. And David says, okay. Do I need to know how to use Mac OS? I only use Windows and Linux. I heard there was 0 day recently in app. So now this is an interesting question for you, Dave. I'll tell you guys for free. When it comes to cybersecurity frowns towards Linux operating system a little bit, especially when it comes to the business side. But if you want to get in, just focus on Windows operating system. You don't need to know Mac OS, except you want to know. But for you to get in, all you need to know is the Windows side of things. Yeah, because compliance will require you to have something you're paying for. If you're using Linux across all your instances and servers and all that, you probably will have to justify how you're securing that. But if you're using Windows, all you need is to grab Microsoft certification of compliance. So it's quite easy for business to go around that route. All right. So Bolahan says, do you offer hands-on training for people with IT and networking knowledge who are trying to get into GRC? So Bolahan, that's an interesting question. Yes, CyberTech Nexus offers hands-on training. So they're basically on hands-on training across businesses and individuals. So pretty much, I think before we'll talk about that soon. So okay. Now, David, okay, that's like a follow-up of your question on 0 day. Yeah, so 0 day on Apple devices. Yeah, you can eliminate 0 day. The question is, what are Apple doing to secure themselves? But like I said, there's nothing like 100% security. There's what you call equal security in place. That's something that that protects you continuously. So security is expensive because what you tag secure today could be secure tomorrow. So you just have to keep your eyes up and running with the threat intelligence and ensure that you have the right threat hunting in place. Right. Okay. Right. So what are the more questions coming? We still have pretty much 5 more minutes for questions.
More questions.
So I think for the GRC side of things, right, it's interesting. The only advice I would give to people still if you're trying to break into GRC is one, GRC is friendly, but nowadays you need to understand how implementation of GRC could happen. So for example, we have the NIST 2 up and running with the government added to the requirement. It's just a framework anyway, but still, if you want to implement govern into your already existing NIST 1, you need to understand how to do that. Right. So that's pretty much it. Learning how what the requirements are and the controls, and then understanding how to implement it. Yep. But the trick is some of these things are ethical, so you might not really find raw resources out here, except, you know, you're lucky to find one such as CyberTech Nexus could provide for you, I suppose. All right. So keep your questions coming in. Keep your questions coming in. Keep your questions coming in. So if you have a business you're also starting up, you want to know how your business needs to be protected, regardless, probably it could be probably a delivery business. There are logistics attacks going on, third party applications, third party vendors. So these attacks keeps growing. So but the most important thing is we need to make sure that we're doing what we're right. Right. So okay. Right. So you guys should keep your questions coming in. Let's see your questions coming in. All right. All right. Okay. All right. We have more questions coming in. Okay, we have David saying, how do you make your CV if you're going for an entry level jobs? I have done IT support. So IT support is a good entry point, but cybersecurity do not have entry level. Anyone that tells cybersecurity has an entry level, that's a false fact. Why? It's above. the IT entry level. Once you're in IT, you could definitely get into cybersecurity. That's the fact. But for those who haven't had the knowledge of cybersecurity, but you've worked in other fields previously, or you haven't, you could literally bridge that. So that's why the hands-on experience gives you that opportunity. So most entry-level jobs are providing you hands-on experience. But cybersecurity frowns towards that nowadays because no one wants to take any chance regarding their, critical asset or non-critical assets in any way. Right. So we have next question. So definitely, David, you can tailor your system. So once you get in cybersecurity, hands-on, the CyberTech Nexus, they will definitely assist you in doing that. I believe so. All right. So we have Oluwashim also. So Oluwashim say, is Windows knowledge enough to get you cybersecurity job because you've done an interview and selling us? So the truth is, any company that tells you about Linux, they're just trying to pull your legs, right? If you walk up on an interview and you tell a company that you do not know Linux, no one is going to frown about that for you because you're not a pen tester. So the only side of cybersecurity that needs you to know Linux is when you're a pen tester, right? Even being a SOC engineer, you don't necessarily need to understand Linux. Just understand the types of operating system because when you're doing your trend hunting as a SOC analyst and all that, you just need to understand the kind of operating system and what could affect them. But definitely, Windows knowledge is 100% enough. So when we talk about Windows knowledge, it's both on the server side and on the client side, and not just you understanding just the client side. So get that right. All right. So David said, did you need to be really good in programming too? That's a very good question. For me, I programmed because I was just all about trying every areas of IT. But now cybersecurity will need you to know a little of scripting if you're going for the technical side. Not now, especially senior level, but that's not a must. But you could know it just gives you an advantage. Programming, little bit, especially when it comes to secure programming, but not a requirement. But if you choose to know, it just gives you a broader opportunity to dive in cybersecurity. But for a start, in terms of getting into the mid-level roles, you don't need. So every cybersecurity jobs out there are mid-level roles. GRC are senior roles because you're more like the brain box of the company. So we've seen a lot of layoff happening recently, you know, but when it comes to GRC, they're kind of the last guys in cybersecurity that the business will want to lay off because they kind of hold the brain box of the company. All right. So we have Destiny next. So please, what are the ways you can land entry level jobs in IT support roles? So for IT support roles, I think that's very, very easy. So there's a difference between the customer support and IT support. For customer support, just learn how to communicate and learn how to solve problems, learn how to troubleshoot. But for IT support, you need to know little bit of system administration and networking because and then understand how application works. Click and understand the settings logo and all that. That's just what you need to get an IT level role, support role. All right. So we have Enibon says, is Google CC certification a good way? So it's not a good way to start. I keep saying this. Certification is not a good way to start. It's a wrong way to start because you're going to feel you know everything, So that's not a good way. The good way to start is assume you don't have these certifications and go back to the hands-on, and you'll be very fine. So start with hands-on and then have whatever certification you want to have, and then you're fine. But having a certification will make you confused because you're gonna be like, come on, I know this. For example, if you talked about patch management, of course I know patch management, but the question is, have you patched before? How did you patch before? What were the processes? Did you just click on the button to patch? So that's the difference. But your Google CC, your Google certification and ISCC are just a way of welcoming you after having a hands-on experience, right? So that's the perfect way I will explain that. But do not start with certification. For now, have the hands-on and then go into certifications. Yeah. So that's for anyone. So keep your questions coming in. So we have 2 more minutes for questions. All right. Okay, so John, it's just been an interesting time chatting with everyone and sharing my experience and how it has been. It's still a long journey because AI has come to stay, and the moment AI has come to stay, cybersecurity has become bigger. Why? One of the common attacks right now within businesses and individuals are phishing attacks. But the one that is growing faster than we expect is ransomware. Why? For the businesses, why? The more regulations, the more they steal your data and they threaten you, and you're going to pay. So, for example, you have a company, probably just call your bank, and probably they've stolen all your bank's customer details and all that, and they come to your bank and like, hey, look, we've stolen your details and everything, and the bank like, hey, look, come on, we have a backup, we don't care, and they just tell you, look, come on, data protection will give you a fine. Why don't you pay half of the money you're meant to pay as fine to us? So that's going to give room to that a lot. So let's be aware of that. Okay, we have next question from David. David said, except from TryHackMe, would you recommend any other platform for practice? So, cybersecurity and ethical field, you can't recommend anything for anyone other than getting on hands-on training. I won't recommend on how you need to kind of break someone's network. But something you need to understand is TryHackMe is not 1% of cybersecurity, right? It's the pen testing side. It's a different ball game. So pen testing should be separated from cybersecurity because it's a different ball game. But the sad thing is, pen testers are not actually very important, except once a year due to compliance. Because no company wants to know if they are vulnerable because I want to try and break me and see if I'm no. I don't think in your whole home you will call someone to try and match your door to check if your door is secure. I don't think you want to do that. So that explains why pen testing is not so important. It is, but it's not key, right? It's not key as compared to GRC. All right, we have Precious. And Precious says, what should I be thinking about before implementing a GRC tool? So now that's an interesting question. GRC is a big umbrella, right? So you need to understand which of the tool exactly falls under the GRC tool. Are you focusing on governance? Are you focusing on risk? Are you focusing on compliance? But what you need to think about before you even think of using any GRC tool, I suspect that's your answer, is understand the scope of the business. So for example, if you want to check a company in its PCI DSS compliance using a GRC tool, you need to understand if that company falls into GRC scope. What are the items that are in scope of the PCI DSS? So knowing the scope is the first thing you need to do before you think of using a GRC tool. All right. I think we are up time now for the questions. Probably more questions will come up and we could pick this up much later on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Abraham, for answering the questions, and thank you for being here. It's a privilege having you on this panel.
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I hope you guys were able to take one or two things home. I hope you guys were able to learn something, because me, I definitely did learn something. I learned about cybersecurity. I learned that you need to have hands-on experience, not just jump into the cybersecurity career, because hands-on experience is the best, and you can't never ever forget it. You can never ever buy it. So hands-on experience first. And I know after today's webinar session, many of you might be looking for places to like get experience in this cybersecurity field. And we offer the service here, CyberTech at CyberTech Nexus. So apparently right now we like offer cybersecurity training, and then it comes up in cohorts, and the next cohort begins this April. So you can check on our website and click on the register button to get yourself registered on the you can get yourself registered on the cybersecurity training. And we also something exciting too is coming up. We have online self learning platform coming up. In case you don't have time, in case you don't have time to attend the classes, you can go at your own pace and train at your own pace. So you can click on register your interest so that you get updated on when it is being released. And then we also have We also offer cybersecurity training for businesses. But to get more information on it, you can contact us. Our number is there, and our mail is also there as well. And then we also offer IT training. IT training, like for example, during the discussion today, we discussed that you need IT to be able to do cybersecurity. So for people who want to dive into IT from other courses like accounting, law, you can sign in on our IT training platform, IT training cohort to be able to learn more about how it's IT, to be able to be more confident about IT and to dive into the cybersecurity career. So thank everyone for joining from wherever you are across the world. It's really a privilege having you joining this webinar session. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
All right.